Hey, everybody. You are about to hear a brief retelling of the movie House of Nine. Enjoy the movie. 9 persons, whether in their automobiles or in the middle of their occupations, are being abducted without warning in different sections of the city. A short while later, these 9 individuals show up in an enigmatic mansion, asleep. Leah wakes up on a bed, and she goes outside to look into it after noticing a man named Albie on the bed next to hers. She calls hello, but no one responds, so she simply walks on, searching until she comes upon 2 unconscious males in another room. Leah, perplexed, proceeds to the main entrance and attempts to unlock it, but it is firmly locked. When she investigates the windows as well, she finds that brick walls have blocked every one of them. She then heads to the basement to look for an escape of some kind, but she can't find one. Leah had a panic attack upon realizing there is no way out and falls to the ground. Leah discovers there are 9 individuals locked in this room when she wakes up a little while later to the sound of Father Duffy checking on her. Then the speaker simply disappears, and the 9 players start fighting right away. The idea that 8 of them would perish in some manner is the major cause for fear. However, some individuals think the game is genuine and others don't. Unexpectedly, Jay takes a revolver out of his pocket to show everyone, claiming that if the kidnappers let him to retain it, then things must be really bad. Jay explains that he is a police officer after observing that everyone is afraid of the gun, but the others still believe it is unjust that he is allowed to have a firearm. Albie, who comes from a lowly family, lashes out at Jay, telling him that his younger brother had to suffer at the hands of dishonest white police officers. Francis breaks up the debate at that point to state his conclusion: the Watcher wants them to murder one another. Everyone freaks out at this, and Jay concurs with Francis, saying that the person who is still alive at the end of the game will probably be killed as well. Jay then advises that they cooperate in order to discover a way out and puts forth the incredibly hefty notion of using the dining table to smash through the front doors. With the exception of Claire, who only sits about and smokes, everyone agrees to assist together. However, despite their best efforts, the door remains immovable. Jay attempts to shoot the bricks again, but they are too thick to create a sufficiently enough hole. The crew then makes the decision to search every crevice and corner for potential entrances or concealed exits, as they had to be there somewhere. Jay takes an iron rod he discovers to dig through the cellar floor, only to discover that metal is underneath. After finding and breaking through a wooden square on the ceiling, Albie finds that it is sealed. When no one is able to find anything, Claire takes hold of the liquor cabinet and starts to drink. After a while, the party gives up and heads back to the living room, where they chastise Claire for not pitching in, and Jade locks up the liquor cupboard for the time being since he knows that drinking will just make them angry. Following a discussion, the gang vows that none of them want to kill, but they also acknowledge that there are desperate people who would stop at nothing to get money. They go to investigate after hearing a noise in the kitchen and finding a dumbwaiter filled with food. Each person gets exactly 1 piece of chicken and 1 potato for supper. The party gathers in the dining room, and after Duffy blesses their food, they at last make their formal introductions. Albie is a rapper, Max is a fashion designer, Shauna is an addict on parole, Duffy is a priest, Jay is a police officer, Leah is a dancer, Claire is a professional tennis player, Francis is a musician, and Cynthia is his stay-at-home wife. The fact that she has a wristwatch on her ankle gives the gang optimism that the police would come look for her. Jay trades his potato for Lee's chicken in order to keep things peaceful, even though Leah doesn't eat meat and everyone is already fighting over her piece. When some players question Albie's ability, he impresses them with an impromptu rhyme. Albie complains that being brought here caused him to miss a meeting with a record label that may get him a deal. They talk about how to split the 5 rooms, each with 2 single beds, after supper. Since Duffy is a priest and Francis will be staying with his wife, the other 6 individuals will get to choose their roommates by drawing names. Jay and Leah come to an end, Claire and Shona, and Max and Albie. After each couple heads to their designated room, Claire discovers Shona looking through her bag. This infuriates Claire and starts a rather stupid quarrel. Max worries that he will only have 1 piece of clothing for the duration of the trip, so he carefully hangs his jacket as Albie prepares his rhymes in bed. While Leah and Jay are conversing and exchanging some details about their life, Duffy spends his time in prayer. Francis tells Cynthia that she can't believe he's really thinking about it, but the money is quite alluring. After resting for hours, Jay is abruptly attacked in the middle of the night. Following a fight, Jay goes for his rifle, but the intruder quickly flees and their face is hidden by the darkness. All the players emerge from their rooms in response to the disturbance, and they start blaming each other, making unfounded allegations, and casting suspicion on each other, which leads to another quarrel. Albie is the primary suspect due to his resentment towards Jay, and his remarks have begun to border on racism. After calming everyone down, Duffy gets them ready for bed. When the gamers return to the living room later in the morning, they find that the temperature is rising steadily. They get into yet another dispute that almost becomes physical, but then they hear sounds outside and figure it's the cops following Shona's wristwatch. Francis observes the gang, believing they are wasting their time, as they dash to the front door and begin hammering and screaming uncontrollably. Jay shoots his revolver in desperation, but the sounds outside go away and they are once again alone. Everyone loses all hope after this occurrence and accepts the state of affairs as it is. Everyone drinks to forget when Jay opens the liquor cupboard, with the exception of Duffy, Leah, and Jay. They also start playing music, but Albie quickly switches it to something more lively after noticing that it is lulling and gloomy. Soon, the drinkers are dancing together as the temperature in the home rises. Leah reminds Francis of his wife and tells him to leave her alone when he attempts to make out with her in the meanwhile. Then Francis slips up to his room with a bottle of vodka. He breaks the bottle to generate glass shards that he may use as a weapon while covering the sound with the bedsheets. Then he conceals one inside the toilet tank and the other on the door frame. The gang eventually passes out too much to continue dancing, leaving Albie and Cynthia alone in the living room. They become pretty intimate during their dance, so when Francis enters, he takes it personally and accuses Albie of making out with his wife. Soon after, there is a fight, and when Cynthia tries to break them up, Albie unintentionally pushes her, hitting her head on the railing and instantly killing her. When Albie attempts to apologize, an enraged Jay grabs him and locks him in his room by threading the iron bar through the doorknob. The body is then taken to the basement by the gang after being covered in a sheet. The players stare at their predicament and meander around for the remainder of the day. Francis locates his spouse's lipstick and applies it before giving the mirror a kiss. The players are irritated to discover that their amount has been cut to only potatoes in the evening when the heat becomes intolerable. When Albie starts pounding on his door demanding his share, Jay finally gives in to the pressure from the others and gives Albie a little piece of potato. Duffy, however, feels that this is unjust and departs to offer Albie more food. Jay panics and runs to stop him, but the door is already open. Albie storms out of the room, snatches the iron bar, and begins slapping Jay mercilessly, ruining his face in the process. He hides back in his room after realizing what he's done and snapping out of it. Duffy arrives to see how Jay is doing. As he draws his next breath, he hands the priest his revolver. After that, Jay's body is covered and brought to the basement with Cynthia's. As a reward for murdering, they get more food and wine at the next meal along with a message stating good work. The other people have stopped eating together because they are too paranoid. Just Leah and Duffy are seated in the dining room. Francis gives some of it to Albie, telling him he deserves it and that he isn't upset with him since he knows Cynthia's death was an accident. Moments later, Leah and Duffy go to check on Albie, only to find him dead and hanging from the ceiling with Max's scarf. When the news spreads, another argument ensues, and everyone suspects Francis of having sought revenge for his wife. Francis thinks Albie did do it to himself, then tries to pass the blame to Max because it was his scarf. Once again, it's Duffy who stops the fight because it's pointless, and everyone leaves in a different direction because they're wary of each other. Duffy and Leah take Albie's body to the basement and Francis continues to use the lipstick in private, showing he's losing his mind. A new dispute breaks out when Claire discovers Shona handling her belongings again, and it doesn't take long for them to hit one another. Shona goes to get a cigarette to calm herself down, but Claire takes a corkscrew and stabs her. Leah is in another room washing her face when Francis arrives. Without any more ado, he takes the lamp fixture off the wall and throws it into the water-filled sink, electrocuting Leah and causing her to fall to the floor. Duffy goes to talk to Max in the meanwhile and tells him that he only trusts Leah and himself, therefore they need to cooperate in order to live. But Max is avaricious and demands larger servings of food in return, but Duffy refuses him because it wouldn't be just for the other people. Duffy pulls a gun and forces Max to drop anything when he ignores him and tries to grab a sizable amount. Duffy then begins leading Max out of the kitchen, but as they go across the hallway, they come upon Shona's death. Claire tells Duffy that it was self-defense while Max flees back to the kitchen, but Duffy still tries to drag her away. Then, as they pass Lee's bedroom and discover that she is also dead, Claire seizes the opportunity to go while Duffy blesses the body. Francis arrives at that very time and acts astonished that Leah is dead, but Duffy sees right through him and pulls a revolver. Francis begins to make fun of Duffy when he can't bring himself to shoot him, and he demands the pistol. Duffy shoots Francis because he has nowhere else to go and strikes him in the stomach instead. Meanwhile, Leah appears to be awake and breathing. When she emerges and witnesses Duffy shooting Francis, she bolts to a different room to hide, tripping and knocking down the toilet cover, which lets her find the shards of glass. Francis starts gloating about his victory in the game and screams at the Watcher to get his prize because he is unaware of Leah. Leah slips the tank lid while utilizing some bedsheets to get a glass shard upstairs, exposing her whereabouts. After hearing the sounds, Francis pursues Leah and follows her till she runs under the bed. When Francis discovers her, he pushes off the mattress to shake the bed and starts dragging Leah out by her ankles. Leah seizes the opportunity to stab Francis in the leg before taking off fleeing. When Francis comes at her, they both tumble over the railing and land squarely on the table. Francis pursues her once again and corners her up against the balcony. When Leah falls on top of Francis, she discovers that the glass shard stabbed his chest during the fall, resulting in Francis's death and her victory. Leah is having a hard time accepting that she killed someone, but just then, a bright light streams in the front door, and she opens it to discover a large bag that appears to contain the money. She then proceeds down the hallway and passes through another door, which shuts behind her. Inside, she discovers a different mansion containing traumatized-looking victors of previous games. Leah is scared that this is only getting started.